Craig David,
My man.
welcome to the Higher Self.
Thank you, brother. How are you?
I'm excited because I think we're going to cover a lot on this week's episode.
Totally.
Yeah, I can already feel like the energy, and I could feel your energy. I was telling you that a lot of folks in America may not know who you are. You are basically the biggest R&B artist to come out of London. Is that correct? Is that how it works?
Well, it's a beautiful setup. It was back in 2000. I released my first album, which was called Born to Do It. I'm originally from a place called Southampton on the south coast of England. And that's the one that kind of catapulted me out into the world from a few months before just buying records and DJing and cultivating a sound. And then all of a sudden when it exploded, it went 0 to 100.
Yeah.
So it was 1 minute I was in the charts. And next minute we were in the UK for a year, and then we went out to America.
Beautiful.
First time. So
well, I want to get into all that, but I want to start, like most of us, the most important parts of our journeys is our childhood.
Sure.
And it was so interesting because Jen and I were applying for the baby's passport recently.
Right.
And it asked for like the baby's ethnicity. And is it like, are you Latino, Hispanic? And normally I would answer yes. And now we're like, we have a Hispanic baby that is also part Jewish, and we don't know. And I think that's a little bit of your unique story. Tell me a little bit about your background.
firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's the
Thank you.
most important. I'm so happy for you. I think that's going to bring you so much joy and even more wisdom experience in your life. For me, it's actually beautiful when you bring that, because I feel that's actually almost one of the sort of soul missions that I feel that we've come here is to open up, rather than it being very kind of boxed in as what's your ethnicity? What are you?
That's right.
Who are you? It's like, okay, we're in a bit of a, what box do we? There's no real box to really tick.
That's right. That's right.
And I think growing up in Southampton with a British mom who'd grown up here, who was, through her lineage of her mother, was Jewish, and my dad, who came over when he was about 4 or 5 years old from Grenada, as part of the Windrush period of time where they were giving people the opportunity to come to the UK to set up a life here. So having that mix and also many different faiths. My dad had Seventh-day Adventist Christian side. Obviously, I talked about the Jewish side. I was then in a mix of growing up in a society where there was a lot of Asian influence. So I found myself walking past some of the Hindu temples and just feeling really just in wonderment of the beautiful incense that I smelled, and the huge elephants, which I later learned was Ganesh, and seeing this culture and color and vibrancy. So I was kind of in the mix of all of it. So I'm mixed raced, and I love the mix of everything.
Yeah.
Because the cultures all combined kind of gives you a different spirit, and also allows you to see things from many different vantage points. You're not locked into a lot of people will say, being mixed race, that you're black, and that's part of my heritage. But my mum being white, I know her feels and how she had to integrate and hold space for my father, and my father holding space for her, and in the Jewish lineage. And I love that, because it's made me feel like I'm walking this beautiful road where I can speak on things, and I'm all of them, and not feeling separated from either. Yeah. So it's been good for me, man. It's that's why I like that now. You're which box do I tick here? Yeah, I know I have to tick something here. Yeah. I'll tick everything.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta ask, what was that like? Maybe you know this or you don't know this, but what was that like for your parents? Because this was a while back. Things have obviously changed now, where people are more accepting. But do you feel that they had to deal with any sort of pressure by being mixed race? And did you, as a child, experience that or feel any sort of that yourself?
I mean, I didn't feel it firsthand. I think I was very blessed that they held space for me in a way that it felt, this is normal, this is life.
Yeah.
My school I went to, it was very multicultural. So once again, you're experiencing so many diverse cultures, and it's integrating. It just felt, this is how it is. But for my dad, more recently when I've had conversations with him, when he talks about Windrush, and the Windrush was part of a period of time where different boats were coming over from the Caribbean, bringing people, like I said, to have the opportunity to live here in the UK. And when he explained to me his experience when he arrived, which he thought was going to be arms wide open and welcome to the UK, and here's an opportunity. It was hit with a feeling of, this is not quite what I expected. As soon as walking off of the boat into the port of, well, I thought there might be somewhere where I could go to stay, and that wasn't the case. So what happened is a lot of the Indian and blacks at that time grouped up and would say, come and stay in our place, live with us for a moment. So there was instantly like feeling unsettled as to where home was, but then also then experiencing the discrimination and racism that again he couldn't quite understand because it wasn't a thing.
Where he was from.
He was from in Grenada.
Yeah.
So, and also with this being welcome, so it was like it was an opportunity. So when you're hit with that, and at that time, it was far from integrated as it is now. And he speaks of things where he says, "Craig, it's hard for me to fully express and tell you how this was." And I understood that it was hard for him because even though he had a passport, he felt this: if I leave here, I don't know if I can come back in. That's a more recent issue with immigration here in the UK, which has been the problem for a lot of citizens here who've lived and worked and poured their blood and sweat and tears into this culture, and are British citizens who are not made to feel that way because the Home Office might come and say, you got to leave and we can't find your papers because the papers were all scattered when they came over. You may not be able to come back into the country. So a lot of promises that were made here in the UK is something of conversation at the moment, which people are really standing up for their truth. And that's what really impacted me, is that in my life now is seeing how my mother and father held space for me in a way that I never felt that.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, leaning in and saying, Dad, well, how really was it?
Right.
And even for my mum, like, what was, because mixed race couples was few and far between then. It wasn't like it is now. It was like, it was like a kind of situation.
Yeah.
When to me, I don't understand why that would be. Why you wouldn't want to be a melting pot of things going on, but that's the way it was then. Yeah.
It's interesting, but it's one of the things that I appreciate about London. You know, I don't think I have, and New York is known as a melting pot,
Right.
but I don't think I have ever seen a culture that's as diverse as this.
Absolutely.
I don't think anywhere in the world that I've been, I have never seen it. And it's like, there's just a lot of everyone. And it's nice to see.
You can feel that, right?
Yeah, you really can. You really can.
And it's from, I mean, even coming here today, it's beautiful because like you popped up and there's so many different culture just mixing in it. And it feels like from where my dad sits in this, we've come so far.
Yeah.
Where I sit is like, this is how it should be everywhere. But you do, when you're aware and you start to look around, you see that actually it's not so common as we'd like to think.
It's not.
And it can be seen as kind of diverse, and people it rubs up against each other. And you're like, wow. So it's interesting to not almost get too locked in sometimes to the hub of London, because when you come out of it, you can start to see there's different walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people need a little bit more integration. Some people are way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But we're moving, right?
I get that. And you're growing up. From what I understand, you dealt with bullying.
Yeah.
What did that come from, or where did that stem from?
So my bullying wasn't as bad as other kids in my secondary school. So from probably the age of, I think, 13 up to the age of 15. Well, I might be getting the ages wrong. It might be a little bit earlier when I moved from middle school to secondary school. You'd have that as high school, I guess.
Or junior high.
Junior high.
Yeah, junior high.
So it was just an experience that I didn't think that would ever happen to me necessarily. I was always seemed to be had a good way about me. I was bubbly, fun character. But then there was one moment where I just got held up in the middle of the corridor going to class, pushed up against the wall, and it's like, okay, what money have you got? And you're like, I haven't got any money. Like, and it's like you do and you say anything, and then the hand goes into your pocket, and then they pull out whatever change or money you've got. It's like, oh, you have got money. You get a couple of digs in the chest, and this was from about 2 years older than me in the school. So it physically was overpowering. It wasn't like I even felt like I could offend myself.
Sure.
So then that becomes a bit of a routine. That was starting to happen every day, and then you're trying to like not go to that class in the route that you would normally go, and you just start to find any way to get around this. And I noticed it in other people who were being bullied at the time. And I look back in hindsight, and I wish that I'd actually done more, because you can see when someone's suffering, but everyone at school, it felt that this is your own little war that you're trying to get. Let's get through school, because school it can be hard. I mean, I don't know how you found school to be, but it's a place where love and acceptance is something that seems can be few and far between when children are trying to find and understand who they are, and all of the traumas and probably things that are going on at home are all brought into this arena. And it's like, well, I'm going to take it out on you because you're the weakest link. Thankfully, that didn't last for long, because that individual left the school and then it just seemed to go. But it lodged a trauma inside of me, which then later had me write a song called Johnny, which was on my third album, The Story Goes, which talks about bullying. Because I felt I needed to talk about this. I needed to just get it out. I needed to release this. I need people to understand this experience is seen, and I have empathy. And it's not as simple as, just going to tell the teacher, because the teacher can sometimes make it worse and exacerbate it. So who do you talk to? And if you talk to your parents, and maybe they've got other things in their mind that sitting left in the cracks, offending again for yourself. And then maybe it's not at school. Maybe it happens just outside the school gates, on the bus home. So in the confinements of a school that you may have told the teacher, they've got you. As soon as you walk out,
You're on your own.
So it's now seeing it in hindsight, these experiences they do cause trauma, but they also give you wisdom if you can find ways to use them to your benefit later on in life, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
How about you at school? How was the...
Well, it's interesting. You're making me think of a moment when we grew up in New York City.
Right.
And my parents split when I was 13. And my mom moved us from New York City to California. And when we were in New York, it was essentially my mother and my father both worked. Right. So we had both of their incomes, which means that we lived in a, decent area. I can remember, actually, I went to Catholic school. I went to private school. Right. And life was good. Well, the minute we got to California, it went from a 2 household income to 0 income, because my mom couldn't find work.
Okay.
And we actually had to go on welfare, which is like the government assistance. Yeah. I don't know what they call it here. Yeah. I bring all that up because I remember we lived in such a poor neighborhood. I can vividly remember my first time pulling up to the school, the junior high that I was going to go to. I was 13 at the time. Right. And seeing these kids that I had never been around in my life. And I was scared. Right. I was literally scared. And I don't know how I did this. I think I was always a natural salesperson. But even though we didn't have money, I always found a way to finagle what I wanted from my mom. Right. Like, I was good at convincing her. So I used to have, do you remember the red and black Jordans? Yeah. The OG ones, yeah. Right? So I had those Jordans. Well, I had a moment in school that you're making me think back on, where this kid, much bigger, much stronger than me, comes up to me and says, "Hey, what class do you have for 6th period?" Right? And instantly, I was always like pretty bright, and I knew he wants something from me. Sure enough, he wanted my shoes, and I lied to him. And I remember that day I ran home so fast, yeah. And I avoided the kid, and I avoided, wanting to wear the shoes to school. But the other thing, I don't know if it did this for you, it made me very angry. Because I had to go through enough of those circumstances where I didn't feel strong enough to defend myself. So then I went the exact opposite. And I remember fighting with everybody. Right. Right. That's what came out of it for me. And then only later on, when I sat with medicine, that I start to realize the impact that it had on me, and that I was fighting a whole bunch of fights that I didn't need to fight. And it all stemmed from some of these situations that I hadn't released yet. Quite
Totally.
frankly. Yeah.
Do you know what? It really resonates, and it feels that rather than finding a way of releasing it through getting into fights and action, because it seems like we're having a very similar moment. Mine was much later in life. So mine was more, it gone from quite 0 to 100 with my career had gone.
With music.
That in quite early days into it, maybe 4 or 5 years in, 4 years maybe, there was one show that was happening in the UK, and it was ridiculing me on TV. There was many other people. It was like caricatures of different people, and it was under the armor of comedy and satire, but it was ridiculing people. There was nothing positive coming out of it. And because that show was running for a period of time, and this was way before social media, so you didn't have an opportunity to really speak on things and voice without having a moment on TV or a moment in an interview. It wasn't like, let me get up on a live and let's talk about this. So what I found is that the actual bullying that was happening at school was now happening on a national level because it was being ridiculed on TV. It was bullying on TV. It was something that I was like, whoa, this is happening across the UK, and I can't control this. It was very, I think a lot of the countries around the world have done it very unaware, because it was very sort of a British feel of comedy, and it was kind of very procally UK based. It hadn't really kind of reached anywhere else, so it didn't really land anywhere else. But for someone who had experienced bullying at school and then experienced it on TV, and I was thinking, well, and that was the first time where that experience came up for me again, and I didn't know how to adjust to that. So I went into very much fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
So my reason of actually going to Miami, which is what I did in 2010, was actually to do with the fact that it goes back to the first trauma in school, but then being bullied again, and then looking at my home as being something I'm being ridiculed now, and it's ridiculing it's ridiculing me, and it's touching my music, and my music means everything to me. That I ended up moving to Miami. So I went into, rather than getting into fights, I went fight or flight, and actually left, thinking that was the answer. Still, again, it was running away.
Yeah,
I would have to still deal with it at some point. But I feel you, and I feel the fact of having us both very similar in the sense of being a bit of an entrepreneur at school as well. So although if I could sell something, I could find something.
Yeah.
I'd sell the chocolate to you at double the price. And
you
know all the.
I have
the
all.
moves.
I sold everything.
You had to find ways, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember starting. There was a pencil fighting.
Right.
So I remember I started teaching people how to pencil fight, and then I would go. Forgive me, I don't condone stealing, but we were so poor. I would go steal the pencils in the morning and then sell them for 20 cents or whatever. You
You are doing your thing.
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? God forgive us for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to find the ways. And it's funny because they now call that being maybe not stealing the pencils necessarily, or in my case, finding chocolate that's going out of date in about 3 days and having to really work it within those 3 days.
Right.
As being an entrepreneur.
That's right.
Back in the day, there was no word for that.
Yeah.
We were a hustler. You were
Hustler.
just trying to.
Yeah.
Actually, it was real entrepreneurial skills that you put in place, right? It sets you up for life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something that I don't know if you've thought about, but it hit me right away since, we have a way of continuing to attract the life circumstances that our energy is attracting. And it just dawned on me that what happened with the bullying at school came back again in the media because you never dealt with it. You never dealt with the energy inside, right? How did you actually get to a place, or have you got into a place where that's gone now? How did you heal from that?
So thankfully, my heart is healed. And it's funny, when we talk about it, I can speak from a very neutral place. It's not charged with that emotion, which I felt.
As a timeout, what does that mean? Because a lot of people don't understand what it means to speak from a neutral place.
Okay, so I found that when I was speaking from a feeling place, an emotional place, it was charged with, I'm there, it's happening to me right now. I'm angry. I'm unanchored. I'm not grounded, and I'm kind of I'm a live wire.
Yeah.
When I was able to heal that, which when people talk about forgiveness is a funny one because you can say, I've forgiven you and I release you and it's gone. Okay, it's easy to say these things, right?
Yeah.
And I know when you do your workshops, you really are helping people let them know we're going to need to go phone.
Yeah.
It's easy that.
Yeah.
I found that I had to find first neutral. I needed to find a neutral place where it wasn't negatively or positively charged in any way. It was just neutral. I can speak on this as a fact rather than it being something that was every time it brings me back up to this moment, that moment, whatever moment. The first thing I had to do was to truly forgive, which is I forgave the person in question. I forgave their unconsciousness. Didn't mean that I had forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the things. That was the hardest thing because it was poisoning me. It was. I was drinking my own poison and I was continuously getting it back. Yeah, like you said, the energy was attracting what I hadn't dealt with.
That's right.
And it was only, and even going to Miami and running away from it, it didn't cure it because we hadn't dealt with it. And it was only, funny enough, in the last 3 years when I started writing the first book I've ever written. It was called Watch Your Vibe. And I needed to be transparent. I needed to be unfiltered when I was talking about different situations. And that was a big one for me. And as I was writing, I knew I was still filtering it. I knew I was still making excuses as a kid would do if you're being bullied, where you lean in and you try to make it go away. So that's smiling it away. And I remember it when I was at school, the teacher would come down the corridor and you smile it away. He just frisked me up to you taking money out of my pockets and I'm smiling. Oh, no, everything all right there, Craig? No, everything's all good. And he's smiling like we're best friends.
Yeah, yeah.
So I realized that those situations were coming completely in a cyclical fashion where I actually needed to go completely unfiltered and go, I need to go deep in this and I need to speak on this. So there was one thing, writing it down, that helped me release, that helped me heal. But the first real one was when I did a national TV here. It was a breakfast show on BBC, the BBC breakfast show, morning show. And I'm talking to the nation. So this is the first time I talk about finding my voice. And I thought as a musician, I'm finding my voice. This is new melodies.
No, there's another.
This is speaking.
Yeah.
And it was a shock to a lot of the people I was with because they didn't think I was going to really go there. Because everyone was skirting around this. It's been a thing, the name of the show and how it was affecting me. No, it was a big elephant in the room. No one was really talking about it. I wasn't talking about it. So everything was marrying. And then when I went on the show and I sat down, I just spoke on it. I said, I felt that there was undertones of racism. There was bullying in this show. It was uncalled for. I took the brunt of it because the show was named after one part of one of my songs, Rewind. But I approached it with, well, I'm just saying what it is. I feel that this has never been said before. Let's explain how I felt. This was my experience of it. And I can't change anyone else. I can't change the actions of the other individual. And this may not change the person whatsoever. I'm just speaking how I felt. And the funny thing, it wasn't a long interview because like you would get a few minutes on a breakfast show. And we were talking about many different things. But when I left, there was a moment that I recognized while I was saying that the release was happening, which you must see in people in your workshops so much, Danny.
Oh my God.
I was about to cry.
Yeah.
So I'm about to cry on national TV. So there's part of me that's like, hold it down. I'm tearing up and I can feel the energy physically moving from my stomach and coming up. And and I want to just let it fully go. There was part of me but there was this moment where I think there was like a divinely and the time of when they were like, okay, and we're just going to wrap up now. And they said their goodbyes. Maybe it was coming up. It got released though. It got released because as I walked off, I just felt it all light.
It's gone.
And I knew at that point it got
beautiful.
And then it was neutral. Beautiful. Then now I talk about it and it's an experience that we can share and we can use and help other people.
Because it's not charged anymore.
Absolutely.
When you said that, I remembered, my relationship with my dad has always been something that was charged to the point that I couldn't watch a video, a movie with a father-son moment and not start crying. Like just, there's always been something there.
What was the relationship with you and your father? What was the
well, so when my parents divorced, he just never followed, and he never called, and he just decided to, you know. The way we healed it all was there was a moment where I was back in New York for a little bit. I actually purposefully went to go see him. That was the main purpose, right? I said I was going for travel and to have a nice time to spend a weekend, but deep inside, I wanted to try to like fix things with him. And I remember calling him up, and I remember saying something along the lines of like, "Hey, Papi, I'm in town. Let's go have some lunch." And he responded, and he says, "No, that's okay. That's okay. I don't have time for that," or something like that. And
courage you must have had to say that. The courage you had to ask, to want to give.
Yeah, I was at a place I had already been on my spiritual journey, and I just needed closure. And in many ways, him rejecting me like that was the very thing that I needed. That was my medicine. Because in that moment, I just finally understood who and what I was dealing with, and the wounding he must have had in his life to respond to his son in that fashion. And I finally, instead of feeling bad, and instead of feeling hurt, and instead of feeling rejected, don't get me wrong, I had my moment. I finally was just like, wow, this is just who he is. And he just doesn't know any other way of being. And that's when my real healing started. And then, Craig, a beautiful thing happened. I finally realized that he was the way he was with me because his father disowned him. So I put an Instagram ad out in the Dominican Republic. And I said, if you know someone with this last name, please message me. It took 30 minutes. And someone said, yeah, we know people with that name. Make a long story short, within 24 hours, I had found his entire family, flew him out to Dominican Republic with me and my boys, met his father has passed, my grandfather, but his uncles and his relatives. And it was a nice trip.
So you connected with...
I connected him to family he didn't even know of. And my boys were there, and it was beautiful. Because I knew I had to do this to heal not only parts of me, but to heal parts of my kids as well.
Do you know what's amazing about that, Danny? Is that do you not find from this vantage point now, looking back at that in the almost game of life, or the movie of life,
it was all perfect.
He played the character. I mean, it doesn't change the feeling, doesn't change how it is on a 3D level. Being here and experiencing it doesn't change that.
Yeah.
But from a slightly higher vantage point, looking at it, it's like he played the character so well to allow you to look at that and say, okay, I need to break the lineage of that.
That's right.
You moving forward.
That's right.
And be the father to your children that he couldn't have been.
That's right.
Or held space for that to happen. But you still had graceful enough to still try and bring everything together.
Yeah.
So you could experience the love of a child. I think that's so beautiful to hear that, because sometimes that just continues on, right? It just becomes ingrained in you, and then that becomes the thing. Well, that's how my dad was to me.
Yep. And you know what, the thing that I don't think most people realize, which is one of the things that I try to get across the most, is you don't have to do it right now. But at some point in time, if you could just understand that your parents were the exact figure you needed in your life to get you to this version of yourself. And that current version of yourself could be the exact version that your soul needed to feel in order to graduate to the real, truest, highest version of yourself, then the pain was a gift.
Yeah, I feel you.
And when you get to that moment, that's when you unlock. And that when you say that's what happens at Awaken at our event, is people are just, it looks like they're losing their shit, but they're self-actualizing like hundreds of people. It's the most beautiful thing to witness.
Do you know, I've got so much respect for you, for you to be using this moment on this planet to actually do that work.
Yeah.
It's easy to bypass so many things. Like we're talking about so many traumas from like in our childhood that only as adults if you don't go under and peel the onion and get right down to it's like the pea in the princess, right? It's still there, just in the shoe. Just there, and you think you can still move until it brings you to a grinding halt, one way or another.
That's it.
To go in and take it out.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I hear your story, especially when it's something close with your intimates, like and you have a family dynamic, they're the hardest. I mean, I've felt more recently even with my mother and father and my sister. Now, my father had another relationship and another sister of mine that I knew of her and I knew of her growing up, but we didn't spend that much time because I was with as far as my mother and my grandmother.
Right.
Mainly. My mom and dad split up when I was 8.
Got it.
Similar,
yeah.
So for me, one thing that I never experienced, and again, funny how the book was the moment, everything I was writing out gave me an opportunity to just voice it and articulate the words, even if they just laid on the paper. Maybe it didn't even make the cut, but I just was getting it out. I'd never sat down and had a meal around a table with my mum and dad. And now I have my sister who was really reaching out for her brother. I was like, I know you may have a different mum, may have different mums, but same dad, we're family, we're brother and sister, but you haven't connected.
Right.
She was reaching out, really trying to reach out. I love my sister, her name's Amber. She was consistently trying, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I was like, I'm the only son of this family, and I just couldn't work it out, and I could easily blame it, and I was moving, and there was music, and it was all bypassing. Didn't want to leave.
I've been there.
And for the first time, it was only maybe a year and a half ago, that I set about it. I could feel my grandmother, Lily, who really raised me with my mum, giving me a lot of messages and signs from the other side.
I want to talk about that, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bring the family together.
Yeah.
Bring them together.
Yeah.
And we had I invited everyone to come over to my home. And at this point, Amber has her husband, Sunil, came too. Me, my mom, my dad, and we had our first meal together. And for me, that was one of the biggest moments to heal this family, because it was getting fragmented.
Yeah.
I was going to be over here, divorced mum over here, a sister who's like, where's my brother? It was just all going. And I was like, I'm getting the memo. Don't bypass it. And I had that meal. It brought a family together that I knew was going to have such a beautiful upside for all of us.
Because in many parts, what most people don't realize when they hold, either anger or resentment or judgment or whatever towards anyone in their family, they're holding it against themselves. And so what you did with your family was not only did you bring your family together, but you brought parts of yourself back together. And people don't get that because the mind and the ego has a wonderful way of tricking you into thinking that your safety and your power is going to come from the resentment that you have towards your grandfather, your father, your mother, whoever. But in actuality, your real power comes from reconnecting to your heart. Amen. And the only way you can ever reconnect to your heart is to forgive the people that you are, in your mind, are justifiably angry with and resentful for. But then one day life leads you to this place where you go, like, it's time to surrender.
It's funny, like you get there with your own means to a certain degree, or you get forced.
You're gonna get right.
Yeah. One way or another.
Yeah.
That's why again I'd say with your awakened workshop, you're doing the work, brother.
Thank you.
You're doing it with your voice. You're speaking your truth, and you're speaking it very unfiltered across. But also, as I've seen, so many people who've been healed. Who go into it with expectations and the mind's tricking them out. It's like, we're going to go here. What are we really going to see? What's going to happen here?
I know.
And then
that's why I just say, just come. Come. Just come. Yeah. I want to ask you something. I feel like one of my greatest gifts in this lifetime has been that, I first dealt with, success and like wanting to grow my life, whether it be financially or my profession, right? And then I came to spirituality, and as a result, one of the messages that I bring to people is that there's nothing stopping you from the life you want other than your thoughts, feelings, and emotions around the story you've created of why you should be stopped, right? So you could literally become, have, create, whatever it is that you want, right? And I am thinking right now, I love my people. When I say my people, is like, there's people that they come to awaken, and then they come to a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And I always see them, and, we become friends and brothers and sisters as we help them through some of like their biggest life transformations. And one of them is a singer. Her name is Baby Sill. Okay. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm just thinking of her right now. I want to know, what was that like for you going from 0 to 100 in your music career, right? And maybe there's a singer out there, a musician out there, or someone that has always dreamed of like getting into music, like, what was that like for you? And what inspired you? Was it a gift? What did you have to go through? Just share with us that part of your life.
Totally. I mean, I'm so blessed, and the experiences I had as a child with music was like nothing I can really I can explain. That the feeling of walking to the local record shop to listen to the records on a Monday morning was everything. I put the headphones on. Time was a lot slower back then, and I say 20 years ago, just because we didn't have the social media in the same way. We didn't have the different streaming sites. It was just very organic, and things were a little slower. Like you could have a song out that was on a promotional copy of a song for 6 months before it actually got released. It was a lot slower. So you could play something in a club as a DJ, and that song could grow and organically build to the point at which my first single, Rewind, which was with a group called the Artful Dodger, forced its own hand to be on commercial radio. It did all the illegal pirate radio stations were playing it. People were requesting it on these commercial stations, and they were like, can you play this song? And like, usually a radio plugger would go, and his job would be from the record label to go in with the record and present it to them, tell them the whole spiel about how it's going to be the biggest thing, and hopefully get it played. This was getting requests, real organic requests, to the point where it got played without anyone from a record label, because it was assigned to go and play this record. So to go from one moment walking up Southampton High Street, my local high street where I used to go to the record store, to it literally night and day, to not be able to walk up that same high street.
Literally from one day to the next.
One day to the next. Pandemonium. I saw you on TV. Wow, the song's getting played. I saw you on Top of the Pops, which is like a very big UK chart show at the time. You were on Top of the Pops then.
Yeah.
And friends who I knew for years, or people I knew, I wouldn't say necessarily the closest of friends, people I know who lived on the same neighborhood, same projects, council estate.
Yep.
Would run up and, can I get an autograph? Can I take a photo? I'd be like, bro,
it's me. Yeah.
So something shifted. So I knew that the whole paradigm had shifted. We're talking close proximity of people I knew for all my years through school, all these years, and now kind of like, whoa, we saw you on TV. Now it's almost other. So I adopted very quickly. One, this is the most amazing thing ever. Everything I've been working towards, everything I've been dreaming of is happening. It's like it's gone from like a 0 to 100. Also, what bedded in was a bit of imposter syndrome, because I was like, this can't be. I was working at the local McDonald's only like a year ago.
Yeah.
To pull some money together. I was going to this record shop, and now the record's in here. I was then playing 3 nights at Wembley Arena here in London. I'm standing outside with 3 nights, and it's got Born to Do It, and the dates all crossed out, and I'm like, wow, there's a picture I've got at my mum's house. And I remember thinking, this can't be for me. I'm waiting for the bubble to burst, someone to pull the rug from underneath my feet. Even when I was on stage and I'm looking around, there's 16,000 people night after night coming to see you perform, and I'm looking at the band thinking, who are they here for? So I then kind of had this sort of slight fragmentation when we talked about parts of you splintering off. There was a part of me that still wanted to be a local boy from Southampton. Everyone knew me, like, hey, Craig, how you doing? So I wanted to be that kid. I wanted to be like Craig from the block, as in Jenny from the block, right? I wanted to be that.
Right.
This eclipsed that. Yeah. We're number one, Born to Do, first single after Rewind, Fill Me In, gone to number one. 7 Days had gone to number one. Walking Away was already making the album now. Blasted that to number one. Born to Do It. It gone from people I was looking on my wall at, thinking, wow, Mariah Carey and Destiny's Child. A year later, I'm performing at the House of Blues in LA. The first night, Missy Elliott's turning up. The second night, there's Jennifer Lopez and Queen Bee is there in the building. The third night, I'm there performing Walking Away, and I look in the middle of the crowd, and everyone's making a bit of commotion. Who is it? Stevie Wonder in the middle of the crowd singing Walking Away.
Stevie Wonder.
Brother.
Wow.
This is where it was like,
what in the world is going on? Yeah.
Steve, and not to be like it's just dropping names, because whenever I
No.
it feels, but he came to the dressing room after. I'm like, I'm in awe, Stevie Wonder, right? Who brings him is Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones drops the most blasé, classy line that I've ever. Like, he said, "You're great, man. Great performance, my man. But like MJ's got the album and everything. It's like he got nose for his friend, and he just dropped in. He's carried on comments. I said, whoa, what? Huh?
MJ.
Which MJ? I need you to say. No, don't give me the movie. I don't give me give me the name. I don't want the. Yeah, Michael Jackson's got your album. He gave me boy like 10 of them gave him to different friends. I was like, bro, if the rug does get pulled right now,
yeah,
good.
That was the
I have
moment.
to go back to the Southampton High Street and do my own thing, go back to my little projects, and I'm cool. So there was these moments, but it did instill this imposter syndrome where I was like, is someone gonna pull this? Did I really write those songs that are gonna stand the test of time? Can I do it again? So very quickly, early doors from that 7 million album sold on that first album to the second album, which was Slicker Than Your Average, which did 3.5 million. Again, the energy I was putting out was imposter syndrome. Like, when's it gonna? So now when they're telling me that it did 3.5 million albums, and the record company kind of like, oh, wow, we could have projected it to be like 9, 10 on the next album. And I'm like, wow, it's happening. The wheels are coming off of the train. But then now I look back in hindsight, 3.5 million albums.
Yeah.
Most artists right now would be running it like it's their birthday every single day if they could be told it was 3.5 million. It's unheard of. But I was already like accepting that something's going on here. So it kind of, again, that took a long time. Again, I think it was years before I actually write that.
And on the contrary, it's almost as if you were having a difficult time accepting the greatness that was within you.
Mm-hmm. I was diminishing or dimming that light because it was so great. I know it was channeling. I know there was a divine source was coming through me, and I was channeling. I was the vessel for that to come.
Yeah,
I know that.
I know.
Those first 30 seconds to a minute on the microphone when I'm in the studio and I'm not thinking, and someone either plays a beat or plays some chords, and I just sing a melody, and we capture something, and then we go after and try and decipher what it is, maybe put a lyric to that melody. But that first minute, it's so pure. It's my most fun time. It just comes through me. I'm not in control. I'm laid back. And I'm like, they're like, whoa, what's that melody? I don't know. I can't replicate. So if you're not pressing record, I can't do this again. It's coming through one time only. And then we can deal with it. That's divine. And it's those moments I cherish. And I try to remember that that's actually, before the mind kicks in, is how any and everything, like not coming here and like, let me watch every single podcast of Danny and see how he does what's his.
Nah, brother.
Be here,
just flow.
Working through. And it makes life so much more fun.
For sure, man.
You forget numbers, you forget defining yourself by anything. It's just, we're here.
Yeah.
Be open and be a vessel. Just don't get in the way of that.
And you know, Craig, I think everyone has that ability in their own unique gifting and their own unique purpose, you know, because I can so relate to what you're saying. Because I always tell Jen this. I said, maybe I may not be good at a lot of things, but you get me 5,000 people in a room and you tell me, you know, 20 minutes ago, the speaker or the teacher, you know, got the flu and you need someone to step in for 3 days. No notes, no nothing, no planning. I can hold that audience and take them down a journey of healing like nobody's business for 3 days. And I don't say that again. I'm just saying that it's just because it's not me. And so people sometimes in the audience are like, wait, what did, I don't know what I said. I don't know. You're going to have to watch the tape.
For real.
Because it was just, it was just flowing. But I think the same way it's like, you know, I've seen psychics with that capacity, mediums with that capacity, yoga teachers with that capacity, teachers with that capacity, musicians with that capacity, chefs with that capacity. We all have this ability.
Absolutely.
We all have this ability.
Absolutely. And once you have those moments of, as I said, like when it's almost too much, like believe it's bigger than you can ever imagine. And that's in all walks of life and all facets, as you said. And it feels like you're only that little switch to experiencing that, and it's happening all the time anyway. You know, And I feel like the one thing I've sort of realized that music has been a form of healing for people. It's my way of communicating. I've always felt that there's more petals to the lotus flower. That's just one that I've really honed the skill, and I would say I'm a master at that. I know how the melodies to create. I know how to. But once you create one thing, it's like you almost want to become a student again in something new, which was where talking about the book and being able to have conversation where there's no melody, like really speaking and landing things. Because I think a lot of people out here, they may not have read all of the spiritual books. They may not have gone through the same thing where they've read and seen and they're into metaphysics as much as they're into the tarot and divination, or they're into spirit guides, or into whatever it may be. Or angels. They just might just be like, can you break it down in a way that I can lead into this? Because I think otherwise the circles can get the ego tripping out again, tricking us to be like, wow, or you have to be of some level to speak on these things. No. Someone tell you that. No. You're a charlatan.
No.
Everyone's got this.
Everyone.
And that I think is so empowering for people to not feel like, yeah, but I haven't read all the books and I don't understand. Well,
I don't think I've read a single book. Like it's just
landed.
Yeah, just be you. Just tap into what comes naturally to you. And the other thing is like, go do the work.
Yeah,
like go deal with the bully, right? Go deal with the dad. Because all of these things are the actual things that are stopping you from unveiling who it is that you really are and what it is that your true gift and purpose really is. You know?
It's so true.
Yeah.
To be able to share that.
Hey guys, before you continue listening, I wanted to introduce you to the sponsor of this episode, Athletic Greens. I decided to give AG1 a try because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, boosts my energy, and supports my immune system. Especially for someone like myself that fasts all day, I take it in the morning before starting my day, and it makes me feel incredible. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body. It also helps me save an enormous amount of time, and it makes my life so much easier with just one scoop in the morning. So it makes it a very seamless and easy daily habit for me. Just one serving of this stuff, AG1, supports my long-term gut health. It has 75 high-quality vitamins in it, minerals, and whole food source ingredients. So if you're looking for a simple and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of their vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So just go to athleticgreens.com/Danny. That's athleticgreens.com/Danny and go check it out today.
Because I feel like even with music, it's something that I love, and it's been something that's so caring, and it's had my back all the way through. And I get a lot of my messages broadcasted through music. I'm very visual, so like movies, I get a lot of, I get all my messages and synchronicities and number sequences and watching something that might be talking about Kundalini rising, and you'll clock it in a movie. Like when you watch The Wizard of Oz and you start to see, okay, all of the different characters that Dorothy was meeting along the way was herself. And that you start to see, wow, these are very, very powerful metaphysical authors of movies and books that are giving it to people, usually in children's movies in a lot of respects, that people can lean into and that can land. Because if it gets so heady that no one can understand anything, then you're preaching you might as well talk to the wall. And I think that's one of the things I realized, that music has been one moment that I can talk to people, but also let me use it in this vessel that people can lean and say, well, I kind of like his music and I like the way. So when I talk on stuff like this, it doesn't feel like it's foreign. I can talk in a way that's not, I'm going to give you so many articulate words that just like, you just like, whoa, I know what you're talking about. Even the word meditation, it's like, if you don't need to understand the word is just, we're trying to, whatever you want it to be, but let me give you the feeling. And you always speak on this. It's the feeling. What's the feeling of that?
Yeah.
What's the feeling? And you can use very clever ways to bring that across to people. I feel that people then, it lands. Otherwise, you just got this huge 10% who get it and they're just talking the talk, and the other 90 like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
And that, you know, man, and that's one of my passions is I want humanity to get it.
And I feel that from you, brother.
You know?
I really do.
Yeah. And so I don't want to look a certain way. I don't want to dress a certain way. I think in everybody's journey, I'm going to ask you about this, but I think in everybody's spiritual journey, like, you know, you start off, you know, wanting to change like a lot of your exterior and then eventually I can tell you, you just land on like,
well, you're coming in with the Nikes on, yeah. You're not coming in with the whole like,
no, all the beads and man's
like meditating on top of the Himalayas.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that actually turns people away from spirituality because in their mind, their ego goes, well, if you're going to get spiritual, you're going to have to look like that. No, you can look however the fuck you want to look, you know?
Bro, it's so true, yeah. It's like, and the funny, even, we could talk about it, but even when like, firstly, whenever I was like speaking out, I was talking to the universe, to God, to source, to guides, to angel, to what, I put on some weird voice. Like I was talking to like I was, yeah, could you please? And I'm thinking, God, bro, your guys, they're down. God knows the vibe.
Yeah,
God,
they're beyond this.
Them Jordans you're talking about, he put you in the Jordan. Trust me, he gave you this vessel. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's like, there's this very kind of, there's respect and a discipline. I feel like kind of it gets you to where you need to be. But sometimes like you can get, I think culturally, many years of lineage down, the holiness part of it makes you feel other. It's always coming through, and I recognize that it's happening real time right now. The conversations we're having, the reason why we met, how we met, it's all divine.
Which, by the way, we didn't know this, but my mother-in-law went to school with your manager's dad.
Yes,
and my father-in-law, I guess, sold you or gave you the.
But your father-in-law, Andy was working for a company called AKG, company. And at the end of one of the shoots, they wanted me to take a photo with wearing the AKG headphones, just so they could put it internally, and they gave me some free headphones.
Yeah,
that's how I met, because he was very close also with my manager at the time. His name's Colin. Put the headphones on. That picture of Born to Do It from the first album is from Andy. So we go back to the first album, and now the fact with Jen like that. You can't make it up. It's actually so beautiful and so divine. And I don't think that even us meeting at an earlier point, I would have been ready to have the conversation.
No. So it all happens. It's all perfect. It's all perfect. How did your journey into spirituality begin? And what are your spiritual gifts? Because I don't like using the word believer, because believing leaves room for what potentially is not. Yeah. I know that every single human being has a spiritual gift. Sure. There's blockages keeping them from realizing what that is, but every single human being has not only a spiritual gift, but the capacity to have, communication with their spirit guides, their angels. How did this all begin for you?
Wow. Okay, so back in Miami was when it really, really started. So I was throwing house parties in my home, and this was in the Mondrian Hotel on South Beach, and my apartment was called Tower Suite 5. It was like they had the penthouse level, and then this is Tower Suite level, which try and make you feel
even that much bigger.
To be that.
Right.
And I was throwing these house parties, and I called them TS5, which has now become something that I go out and I do performances with as TS5, as a DJ performance where I go out and sing songs, but also I'm mixing records.
Sure.
So I was throwing these house parties, and it just got to the point where it started off to be fun, started to be inclusive. I was over the red rope of going to clubs and being divided by a red rope, and you're supposedly having the best time of your life in the VIP. And if you're outside of that, then wow, you're not cool, you're not part of it. But then as soon as I was in the VIP, I got someone talking in my ear, can't hear what you're saying, drinks are spilling all over me. It's like, what the hell's going on? I'm not having a good time. It's packed. And then you look outside over the red rope, and you're seeing someone having the best time of their life. Free, can go to the bar, have shots, meeting new people, can get to the restroom. I'm thinking, and everyone's worshipping this wooden table with a vodka bottle on it, like it's life. This table, you put vodka on here and then spirits, and you put a nightclub, all of a sudden this table turns into something like it.
Right.
I was like, I've got to change this. So I started throwing these house parties in my home, which was first time opening my doors to people. Started off as a few friends, built into me getting a little DJ set up, because people were playing on my iTunes, they were playing like Biggie and then going to like Macarena. I was like, guys, vibe kill here. Nobody wants this. So rein that back in, got a little DJ console, invited friends of friends that come in, and end up being like maybe 50, 60 people in my home with security at the door.
Wow.
People were catching wind in the hotel and just turning up. So if your name's not down by 8 p.m., you're not coming in, kind of vibe. And I was the hostess and the mostess. On the microphone, singing to everyone, vibing to everyone. Actually, I wasn't singing to everyone. It was only when I got the little nudge of, can you play 7 Days? And I'd be like, nah, that's not the one to be playing 7 Days. But she was really cute. And she said, you just play the first one. Maybe I could play just for you. I play it. Next thing is someone repeat, just playing it like back to back. And I was like, she's having a private performance of herself for 7 days right there. So that was the start of it. And then what happened, I felt like people were kind of taking advantage of my home.
Sure.
It was like a gateway to get through, get free drinks and food, and then go to a club. When I had people kind of like leaning red wine in glasses on my white sofa, and just the disrespect started happening. And it just, there was funny moments. There was one time where I'd bought some shoes, some Christian Louboutin boots shoes. I just had mad ideas, and I had chocolate balls, like kind of like inside them, just for vibes, on the table, so you could just take your chocolate from it. I don't know why I got this idea. All of a sudden I see one girl like taking the chocolate Lindt balls out and trying to slip her foot, her big old size 8 into these size 4, I don't know what they were, pushing them in, like the chocolates were flowing out. And I had to get on the mic, and I was very graceful about it. I said, hey, we had to bring the fader down a bit. Oh, big shout out to the girl over there trying to put her feet in the shoes like a Cinderella style. How you doing there? She shocked, like, oh my God, because you're literally ready to put them on and be out. I was thinking,
people are crazy.
I've got to rate. This is not the one anymore. And I didn't feel the vibe was the same anymore. And it got quieter and quieter, and I stopped having the parties, and they used to be every week. And then I started asking the question, like what is all this about? Like, what I'm in Miami, I'm living the life of on paper, supposedly supposed to be incredible, right? I've got a penthouse, I've got a Ferrari, do you know what I mean? We're in the right spot. The career, all the things. I could tell myself the whole story. I felt empty, and I felt something's not adding up, and I couldn't put my finger on it. So I'm like, it's funny, this is so beautiful when you ask those questions, how quickly the universe, the divine just kicks in. So then I was sort of presented with Course of Miracles, just presented itself. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me start. Listen to audiobooks. I found audiobooks were easy for me to just focus in on. And then Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now.
Wonderful.
That one really, really connected.
That one, yeah.
Shakti Gawain, Living in the Light. There was a woman called Sonia Choquette who's been very much a mentor for me for many years now, with a book called Trust Your Vibes. And all of it's very intuition based. And it was answering the questions that I was asking. It was more, it was everything I was asking that I couldn't get from the 3D world was coming from this other place. It was like all of my senses, there was something else that was missing, and that gave the tint, it gave the color to everything. And it's the sixth sense, which wasn't to scare people with Sixth Sense necessarily the movie. And that feeling. And I always had that. Our intuition's always kicking in. I had that to go and buy those records, or to make sure I practiced that a little bit extra, or why was I so passionate? Well, that was just following it. And as a kid, you tend to just roll with it. And that can get silenced a little bit through life. But I just found that it was answering the questions. And I was also experiencing a lot of pain in my lower back at the time in Miami, which was also, that was a bit of a dark night. The soul was starting to kick in because I was feeling this excruciating pain. I'd always been working out. I'd say I carried some weight when I was in school. I wasn't fat. I wasn't chubby. I feel like all those terms are just all incorrect. They're all judgments of what is the norm. You should have a six pack and be like the school captain, the football team. I wasn't. I was carrying weight, but I could get in, run, and play football with the best of them. So I always wanted to conform. Society said I needed to lose weight and change my way I looked. And so this then, when I was in Miami, doubled down by me having excruciating pain in my lower back, which kind of gave me symptoms of sciatica, nerve pain, which I wish for anyone out there who's experienced any kind of nerve pain, it's something, Danny, that, and I think you never experienced it if you have, but it's
No, but I know people who have.
untold pain. It's my pain threshold's high. I can take injuries. I can take it like even a break. I can feel it's acute kind of pain. But when nerve things start to happen and it fires off, like having maybe a wisdom tooth would be a good example. When someone touches your wisdom tooth, everyone's a bit like that wincing. So it was happening all the time. And I was at this time I'd done years of training. So I got my body into incredible shape, and I was always proud of it. But at the same time, I got so gaunt in my face, I looked like Skeletor from.
I've been there too.
It's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is not the look for me. God gave me so many gifts, and this change up the body to get this ab thing ain't the one.
Yeah.
But do what you need to do, and you'll learn. So yeah, so I kind of got to the point where I got this incredible pain, and it spiraled me into all of my reframing of being positive, and all of my finding a sweet spot to find a way out of it had me in a place where I had to surrender.
Yeah.
I could not control. The pain took me down. It took me down. It threw me in a spiral because everything I thought my whole career would go down because I can't keep up the pretense of this working out. That's gone. It's going to affect my music. This pain I'm feeling, nobody's got the answers. Injections aren't working. I just thought, and I actually had the first time in my life, the dark thought of, I think I may have to dip out. And I've never, ever, Danny, felt like I would ever say that. So for the first time, I was experiencing depression and experienced something that was real. And that means that I can speak on it with empathy, and I understand people going through things. And the pain that was relentless. And I had to just go there. And it was the hardest time. And I'm so thankful that I didn't take that. I never was like looking at how can I do, thankfully, but I felt like I can't go on like this. And thankfully, my way out of that was just to speak, was to confide in my manager we spoke about earlier, Colin, just to speak to him. It wasn't even to speak to my mum, because I knew my mum would she'd give me the cuddle and the hug and the right side and anything you want. I was like, Mum, you don't understand this pain. I need to, and even Colin I knew couldn't take the pain away. But I was like, I just need to confide in someone where he can actually have a conversation with me. And all he did was hold space. All he did. And that's why, again, this leads back into awaken and everything you do. You have to hold space, because these things aren't always overnight. You want to tell you that sometimes you have to go through this for a reason. And sometimes you don't understand that until later on, because now I do see it. And I've thankfully found ways to get my back in a way that's better without having a fusion necessarily. But it's my L5, S1, anyone who's experienced like degeneration in your discs, there's hardly anything there. So it's like being on a bit of a Bosu ball. You have the strongest body, but the house is trying to come down. A bit of a tower moment.
Yeah.
Unstable ground. So it was just a bit of shaky ground for me. And now I actually can speak to people having experienced that pain with empathy. I can speak to someone about mental health with empathy. I can speak not from a abstract, oh, well.
Or judgmental.
Yeah. Just go and read a book.
Which is a gift.
That's the good thing. I know now that teachers, mentors, anyone who's experienced pain in lots of ways, as hard as it may seem for that to be looked at as a gift at the time, you hope that at some point that it's seen as a gift, as we've spoken about with all these things.
Sure.
You have to go through these things to be able to then speak on them, because how can any teacher or anyone be in a position of real wisdom when you haven't experienced yourself?
That's right.
It's easy to say, yeah.
That's right.
Have you felt this? No, but like just keep clapping or vibe. No, have you felt this?
Yeah,
You know.
for sure. Yeah. That's where all the growth is.
Absolutely. So Miami, funny enough, was a weird one. You go to the place that you think you have everything, you spiral out of it. And I came back to the UK, and that was where my healing started. And that would have started from 2015, and it's been ever since. I'm still there's still constant.
Yeah.
It's never. And wherever we signed up for, when we came in and signed our soul contracts as to what we want to do and who we wanted to meet, it's going to rub up against you because you always become a student again. You master it, and then you'll put into practice to really see. You want to wear that mantle of you've mastered something. We're going to test it. We're really going to test it. We're going to shake it up to see if you crumble, and that's the test of this whole thing. You know?
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean it has to be heavy.
No,
it's just to know that that's what you signed up for, and I get it now. And to not speak on this platform and use it in this way and meet you and meet like-minded people and see how you're impacting the world.
Yeah.
I'd smile. I even if we hadn't met, I'd smile and say, Danny's on his course. He's the light work. He understands. He's doing his thing.
I appreciate that. And wait till you meet your partner, because that's a whole nother level of medicine and growth and healing. It's incredible.
So ready for that.
Yeah.
I felt that again. I bypassed it. Did everything to shut it down, to not go there, have this wall up, this guard. And finally, I can actually say I've done enough of the work on myself to actually be in a place where I can meet someone. I can meet someone at that place of, I need you. We're going to you're going to be the shadow to give me
for sure
work.
For sure.
Together.
For sure.
But I can meet you at a place that's not like we're still working out the bullying and the situation.
Right.
You understand? So,
right. And it's beautiful because what I've, trip on this is that in many ways, it could have been that all of that happened to get you finally to this version of yourself that could finally draw in and call that person. So then you can take the even deeper journey of it's just because that's what happened with me, man. It was
oh man,
it's all just synchronicity, and it's really powerful.
I feel you.
It's really powerful.
I really feel you, and you're a true testament of that. You speak openly, you speak with your heart, and the way in which the dynamic and you show relationship and how it meets and how we don't do the work ourselves.
Forget about it. Yeah,
and that's the craziest thing. I had to forgive all of the unhealed traumas that I caused as well.
Sure.
Who tried to break down.
Sure.
Tried to get in.
Sure.
Say sorry. Like, I see now. At that time, I didn't understand. Now I get it. You were just trying to break down my walls, and I had like Alcatraz going on here.
That's right, man. That's right. And that's all right. That's all right. How do people find out more about you? How do people follow you? How do people hear your music?
Okay, so everything's at www.craigdavid.com.
Okay.
That's where you'll find the latest book, What's Your Vibe, which I think is great from the sense that it's coming from a place that I hope that it will help people. It's got the musical side of it, but it's also talks about mental health, depression, imposter syndrome, and then the spirituality. All of it. Yeah, we can go angels and guides, and we can go into it. So it's I felt it's a good balance of the two in a way that people can hear. The new music, you can see the latest album, 22.
Okay.
Is on there, but everything's on my website. And my Instagram's
Craig David.
Yes. So to be honest, it's all there. But I feel that this has been very divinely led.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for being able to have this conversation with you and meeting you, because you have exactly the same energy as I felt through the broadcast you put out, and just to continue doing what you're doing, because you truly are a light worker, brother. You're touching people.
Thank you, man.
And I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. That for me, it's all just been about, I knew who I was prior to the awakening.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, how many people are out there like that old version of me?
Of course.
Like, I want the world to taste this, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want the world to feel this.
When you felt it, it's like you're like, I just trust me. Like you just come to a
just come to a
trust me, just come. Yeah, That's it. Don't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
And I've seen, and again, you're so graceful to have flown people into kind of when they've said, like, it's hard for me to get somewhere, or because you've made it in a way that's easy and accessible for people.
Yeah.
It's hard. That jump is hard.
Yeah.
There's so much, and there's so many mediums coming in different ways for people to, should I do that course? Should I try this? But you're solid in the way that you come across as well.
Sure.
Oh, you've got the vibe. I can see he's got the swag. He's not coming here with some mad kind of shorts and crazy boots coming up, crazy hat. That's cool too.
Yeah.
No judgment, but sometimes you need things to land in a way that it can be like, he seems like he could just be a guy.
Bro, just be authentic. Like, just be real.
Real talk.
That's it, man. Thank you, man.
Brother,
thank you for being
appreciate
here.
you.
Thank you for being here.
Come on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. That's it. You know what? I think you guys, if I know you guys are going to eat that book up. What's your vibe? Yeah, go to craigdavid.com and Spotify.
Spotify for the audiobook.
Yeah.
Listen to that, and for the music.
And for the
New
music.
album,
For the music.
too, yeah. And all the albums are on there too.
Especially for those of you in America who may not be keen to the music, like, go check it out. I think you're going to love it.
I appreciate you.
And we'll see you next week on another episode of The Higher Self.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. If you heard something in this week's episode that caused you to think maybe, just maybe, there was a higher potential for your life, maybe there was a potential to earn and receive financial freedom, to attract the relationship of your dreams, or to improve your health, that's what we specialize in. We help wonderful human beings like yourself to unravel all of the limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been living through so that you can finally tap into your life's truest potential. If you'd like to talk more about that, we invite you to join us on Instagram or Facebook and email us the word discover more. And when my team sees that, they will reach out to you, send you the details of how we could help you on your pathway to a life of abundance, fulfillment, and creating the absolute life of your dreams. Message us right now the words discover more now on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you soon.